All right, what's going on? Happy Monday to everybody out there in TV land. We are here. We're live, the Ragni show. It is, afternoon, evening, or hey, if you're over in Europe, could be morning or the middle of the night. Who freaking knows? But all I know is it's been a long time coming talking to this dude, and he came dressed for the fucking occasion with his Evil Knievel jacket. I am so
Amen.
excited.
Yeah, I
The
love this
one and
jacket.
only. Dude, if I was a lot thinner, I'd come to Vegas and steal it from you. The one and only Mr. Stoney Curtis. Stoney, how the hell you been, man?
Man, I have been fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I know we've talked about this for a while, so it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you, man.
Yeah, it's actually the first time I interviewed Danny, which was probably I don't know 7, 8 years ago. You
Yeah,
were along for the ride, but I felt bad because back then we was just doing phone, and you were just kind of like popping in and throwing a little
oh,
questions, little answers here and there.
right, right. Yeah.
So
Well,
I always felt like you deserve your own time and forum.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Bay.
All right, there's so much I want to talk to you about. The funny thing is, you know, first I like didn't even think about it. Like all these years of hearing the name Stoney Curtis, and when I sit down to start doing the research and I start googling Stoney Curtis, the character from the Flintstones comes up, and I'm like, oh shit. Like I totally escaped my mind, and then I come to find out that that was kind of the way you got the name Stoney Curtis. Like you took it from that partially.
Well, yeah. When I started this band originally in the mid '90s, it was a blues band. Blues covers. We would play at a place called the Classroom back in the Valley in California, and Cozies and some of these others. But you know, uh, we just played everything from Buddy Guy stuff to BB King to the Blues Brothers and all that. But
Nice.
I had a singer, and he was fantastic. But he was a big Flintstones guy, and he always felt back then, the blues guys were just guys, right? It was BB King, Buddy Guy, Stevie Ray Vaughan, that kind of stuff. So being a big Flintstones guy, and of course, Tony Curtis, he was Stoney Curtis on the Flintstones, and he was the
Right.
twist, he was the pop star or whatever. And oh, it's Stoney Curtis. Um, my name being Curtis, he goes, let's call the band Stoney Curtis, and they'll just think because you're Curtis that you're Stony, and he was right. So people just started calling me Stony, thinking that I was the Stony Curtis of Stony Curtis Band, and it just kind of stuck, and here we are.
That's hysterical.
My real name is Curtis Felizak, which is it's a Polish kid from the south side of Chicago. It's fine, but I don't know how glamorous it is. So.
That's
And
hysterical.
here's another thing too, and I had explained this to my mother one time. I don't know how big he is now, but there used to be a porn director called Stoney Curtis as well. And my mother back 10 years, 15 years ago, was living in Florida, and she was always be so excited to talk about me to her friends. She goes, "Oh, you got to look up my son on the internet.
Oh
He goes
no.
by Stoney Curtis." And one of the first things that came up was this porn director. So my mom saying her friends looking at her, like looking at the computer going, "What'd you say your son did again?" So anyway, finally I got top billing on Google now, and it's squashed down. But yeah, it was a whole thing.
Oh, that's hysterical. That's freaking hysterical.
Yeah, man.
So um it's a well-known thing that you are like this huge Kiss fan. You're a
Absolutely.
big Alice Cooper fan.
Yeah.
So like I'm thinking to myself like before you like really started diving into this whole blues world, like was before you became Stoney Curtis, were you like a hairband guy? Were you with the glammed out look or the shock rock look at all, or you just never went down that road, just a fan?
I've always been a fan of it. My first love, of course, was Kiss and Elton John and Alice Cooper and all that kind of stuff. Because I had older siblings, so they kind of turned me on to all that stuff when I was a kid. My sister loved Motown and
Nice.
the Eagles and that stuff. And then my brother at the time, my older brother, it was Alice Cooper and Pink Floyd and stuff like that. But his friend, who was living in our basement at the time, back when they did those things, but my brother's buddy was living in a basement, and he had Kiss Destroyer, uh, and I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and he said, "Here, kid, I think you'll like this," and I certainly did, and just kind of set me on that path. But when I was younger, again, a lot of my buddies are still my buddies to this day. They've been my buddies for
Yeah.
40 something years. My buddy Tony and I had our band back in the day, in the early 80s. We were in the Maiden and Judas Priest
Hmm.
and all that stuff. And that's kind of the music that we played was Riot, Swords and Tequila, and, Hellbent
Nice.
for Leather, and, Killers, and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of where I kind of got started. But, once I kind of got into the blues, BB King and Stevie Ray, Buddy Guy, then I kind of leaned more towards that blues rock stuff. So when I was younger, playing as a kid, it was more the hard rock stuff. And then as I kind of got a little bit older, it switched more into the blues. Once I really got into the blues, I fell in love with it. So
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah, so the late 80s, 90s, what a lot of these guys were kind of more into that 80s, more of the glamour stuff. My 80s hard rock is more the early 80s stuff,
Yeah.
you know, like that kind of stuff. By the time it got a little bit more into the Bon Jovi and stuff like that, I had kind of switched more into Robin Trower was a big one for me,
Wow.
Hendrix, and Stevie and the blues stuff. And so most of my time through the 90s and 2000s, I've been into the blues and blues rock for the most part.
That's like almost like a person like yourself, and I think like other musicians that kind of go down that path, especially at that. I mean, you're probably like late teens, early 20s at that time. It's almost like the musician in you and the human being in you just matured early, and you just like you didn't go down that path of what was popular. I mean, the blues was not that. Stevie Ray Vaughan was pretty popular, but the
Right.
the others were not
You
like
have a friend.
my co-host.
I love it. Uh, oh, that's great. Oh, boy or girl?
Boy,
Oh yeah,
Sam
he's
the
a cutie
cat.
pie.
Yeah,
Sam,
Sam. Yeah,
nice.
he always jumps on. It was funny. I was interviewing one of your buddies. I'm sure Stacy Blades
Oh yeah.
from and Sam jumped up here as usual. And next thing you know, Stacy's cat jumped up on his lap.
Oh,
It was,
I don't. Well, I do have a cat. But it's my girl's cat, which basically means I have a cat. And his name is the Brewski. And I'm telling you, babe, this cat does not give a shit about anything. He doesn't care. So my life has basically become. I used to write songs about love and partying and having fun and cars and all this other stuff. Now I write songs about cats. So during the pandemic, during the shutdown and stuff, I really got into playing the ukulele. So I would just sit there and write songs about this cat not giving a fuck about anything. So, so
Will
I
there
have
be an album about the cat?
the sound man at Vamped was just here at the studio the other day, and he goes, "Man," because during the sound check the other day, I was playing one of the songs. We have a joke, this song called "The Brew Don't Care," because the cat's name is Brewski, so we call him the Brew. But it's all about the Brew doesn't care, and so I would play it, and it's so catchy. He's like, "Man, you got to put that song on your new album."
That's hysterical.
I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm going to. I'm going to sneak it all the way at the end after the last song plays for about 15 seconds. It's going to start with this ukulele song about a cat who cares about nothing.
That's hysterical.
It's what it's come down to, babe.
I mean, they kind of have that like persona about them. They really don't care.
They don't. They don't. The lyric goes, I ask him, what'd you do all day? He looks at me and walks away because the brew don't care. He just doesn't care about anything. unless
Oh,
it's unless it's time for treats, then of course I'm his
then they
best friend.
care.
Then
Yeah.
I'm
Oh
his best
yeah.
friend. Yeah.
That's I've never seen a cat eat so much. I mean, this cat eats more than my dog.
Right.
I go to feed the dog, and the cat's eating the dog food.
Oh, really? Well, yeah,
Yeah,
we just have the cat, but he wants his bowl filled. He wants his treats from time to time. Then he wants the tuna broth, and he wants the tuna
yeah.
with the scallops on the top. The
Hmm.
cat eats better than most human beings I know.
Yeah, exactly. Going back to the question, do you think you kind of like matured to go into the blues instead of going the route of popular music, your Bon Jovis, etc., like you said?
Well, I think it's just like anything else. I don't think you can help really what you dig. It's like you hear it and you go, oh, this is, and I just fell in love with it at an early age. But as time kind of went on, yeah, I think you mature into certain music. I mean, truth be told, at first, a lot of the Hendrix stuff, I didn't understand it when I was younger. You know what I mean? If
Mm,
that makes sense. But
yeah,
as you got older, you kind of start to really listen to it. You go, wow, man, this dude is just, he's on another planet. I mean, it's just the way he puts stuff together and his melodies
hmm,
and his knowledge of the fretboard and stuff and the way he chords things. It's something that you kind of catch on to maybe as you mature as a musician and as a listener. Of course, when you're young, it was all about Kiss and all that kind of stuff. But as
sure.
you start to hear other things, then your ear kind of catches it. You go, wow, that's really cool. And for me, I guess it really all kind of goes back to the blues because all those bands, Zeppelin and all that stuff, it was all blues really. So,
Yeah.
um, just you know, heavier and heavier handed, with the way they played it. So yeah, I guess that would be about it.
Hmm. I've seen pictures, and then I read too. Like I guess it was your first electric guitar
Mhm.
was one of my all time favorite guitars, the Ibanez Iceman.
Oh, I still have it. I should have brought it up.
Dude,
I love that guitar.
I had two of them. I actually I had to sell one when I came here to Nashville. I had a '79, and I've never seen another one like this. A white one.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I had a '79 white one. I had to sell that, and I had a '78 black one that I kind of lost with my other half dozen guitars in my divorce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Yeah, the Ibanez Iceman was when I was a kid. I lived on the south side of Chicago in this little town called Dalton. I grew up
Okay.
in Dalton and Riverdale, which are little south suburbs of Chicago. It sits right on the bottom of Chicago there. And a buddy of mine who I was growing up when we were kids, his father owned a little neighborhood music store, and
Wow.
they carried the Ibanez guitars, and of course being a Paul Stanley guy, and I when I was younger too, I always kind of gravitated to the Explorer, the Flying V, the
Hmm.
Iceman, the otter shaped guitars. But yeah, they got that Iceman in there, and my mother and I went halves on it for my eighth grade graduation.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, she paid for half of it, and then the other half of it I worked off carrying golf clubs at a country club during the summer, for $7 a round. And two, Bay, this is back when an iron was made of iron, and the bags were big, heavy leather bags. They weren't all this,
Yeah.
carbon fiber, lightweight, featherweight stuff. It was and back then I was probably 120 pounds wet and trying to drag this stuff around. But I'll tell you what, I still have that guitar.
That's awesome. I got it. Do you remember how much that was? Like, how much was that guitar brand new then?
$500.
Was it really
Yeah, it's $500.
that much? Wow, I'm
Yeah,
surprised.
it was $500. I don't know if that's what we paid for, but it was $500. My first Flying V too, I bought when I was 18, and I paid $500 for that. $500. I'll tell you what, the whole ticket was $585. I almost remember it like it was yesterday for the Gibson Flying V and a Crybaby wah wah pedal.
Wow.
$585. Yeah, they get a little bit more for them now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, try to do that now.
Yeah, yeah,
You're not getting an Epiphone V for 500.
no, you're not. And the what really got me, of course, into the Flying V's was we were all big Michael Schenker heads, UFO heads
Mm,
too back in the day. That was a big one for us. So I mean, I guess in a lot of ways, I mean that really kind of is kind of how I approach just playing music and the way I play the guitar. Ace Frehley, Robin
mhm.
Trower, Michael Schenker, Stevie Ray Vaughan, all those blues guys, Hendrix. I mean that, especially like I think in Chicago and maybe back where you were from too. It's just it was a lot of hard rock, and then
Yeah,
being from Chicago, there's a lot of blues around there. So I think it just kind of becomes a part of your DNA. That hard rock, and of course the blues. So
right. It's funny because I remember, it's probably early '90s when like the hair bands and stuff was kind of going out and the grunge thing was coming in, and a couple guys I was jamming with, they were like, one guy was getting into the blues. He's like, man, I want to do the blues. I'm like, I don't want to fucking do no blues. Like,
yeah,
I want to rock. I want to like crank it out. Like, he's like, come on, man, blues, blues, blues. And like, we did it for a couple like rehearsals and practices and all. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling this at all. Like,
sure. It's not for everybody. It's a different kind of thing. Yeah, it comes from a different space sometimes. So I mean, it's like you're either way into it or you know you're probably playing blues in some way or another anyway. It's just
yeah,
you know
you
it
don't realize
progresses.
it.
Yeah, it definitely progresses in different directions sometimes.
So you put the Stoney Curtis band together, like the early formations, mid '90s. Um, were you still in Chicago then, or you were in LA at that point?
I was in LA at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived in Hollywood, and I lived in LA, and I moved to LA when I was 2 weeks into my 19th birthday.
Oh shit. Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
so and I lived there pretty much in Hollywood and in Burbank. Those were my
Okay.
those were my stomping grounds, and I raised my kid in Burbank and stuff. So
Okay.
um, yeah, so I've been out there for a while.
All right. So I got to ask, being the fact that you were in Burbank, and my all-time favorite guitar player is Randy Rhoads. Like,
Oh yeah,
did you ever go to Musonia
I did.
Music?
Yeah, yeah,
Did you?
yeah. Very cool. I mean, again, it's just good vibrations. You feel sometimes. There's certain places where you just kind of feel the energy, and yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, big
Which
Randy Rhoads fan too myself.
what's that like, man? Like, we've seen, for people that are in Vegas or through the lovely world of YouTube and the internet, we get to see Stony or Count 77. You're on stage, somebody's always ended up joining you guys on stage, and like doing the Randy Rhoads Remembered show. You're freaking
Mhm.
playing with Rudy Sarzo. Like, do you ever have like those moments when you're on stage playing with somebody like that, and you're like, how the fuck did I get here? Like,
And I tell you, I am still good friends with a lot of the kids that I grew up in the neighborhood with. We still keep in contact, and I go back
right.
there, at least once a year and play, and they all come and stuff like that. And there's many times when I just go, because they live vicariously through me in some way, because
Sure.
I always wanted to be a musician. I always wanted to go and play music and, and do that stuff. And they were always there cheering me on, so now they see me doing all this stuff, and I know how proud of me they are, which makes
Mhm.
me feel good. Um, but yeah, all the time, man, I never take it for granted for a second to be even standing next to Rudy Sarzo, let alone playing music with
Yeah.
him, or Brian Tishy, or Andrew
Yeah.
Freeman singing, or Phil Susan, or
Mhm.
any of these guys. But man, the first time I got to do the Randy Rhoads, because Corey, Brian had asked Corey, who owns Vamped with Danny, she runs
Yeah.
it and stuff. Are there any Vegas guitar players that I should have on this Randy Rhoads thing? And
Mhm.
she's like, well, there's Oz Fox out here, and of course Stoney and Danny's band, and so he asked me to be a part of it. And I'm telling you, man, Randy Rhoads is not my wheelhouse. It's just not. I'm a blues rock guy, so
Right.
doing that is, I have to really practice this, and I have to really kind of absorb it a little bit. I love Randy Rhoads, and he's obviously a huge idol of mine, but
Mhm.
playing that stuff is not something that comes naturally to me. That kind of shredding, you know.
Right.
So I actually went to Oz Fox, and I said, Oz, they want me to play a couple of songs at this Randy Rhoads thing. Can you just kind of give me some tips of how Randy would approach this? You know, because
Right.
Oz was really on top of it, and he kind of gave me some tips and showed me a couple of things, and then I went and I'll tell you, for me, the nerve wracking thing was, and I practiced hard, and I really, I put my best foot forward, and I said the most nerve wracking thing for me was the sound check, because at this point, these dudes don't even know if I could play yet. You know what I mean? So I have to go to the sound check and play my song or two and whoop that ass so that they have confidence in me
Right.
doing the show, right? And I did, and I really I thought I really did a good job with it. I mean, I played from my heart, and
Hmm.
I meant it, you know,
Yeah.
and they really loved it. So doing the show, man, once Brian Tishy like hits those drum rolls and stuff, I mean, playing with a drummer like that, it's like riding a surfboard on the most awesome wave. You know what I mean? Because
Wow.
you're just holding on and you're just enjoying this ride, and you're kind of looking over, and there's, I think the first time I did it, Dewey Bragg was singing, and it was Rudy Sarzo and Brian Tishy, and it was the time of my life. And then I got to do it again, and it was the time of my life again. And
Wow.
I felt I felt really honored, and I felt like I felt like I got to be part of the club for a minute. So that was really awesome, man. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So, all right. So going back to the LA thing. So you were out in LA. Were you doing blues in LA too?
Yeah, I was pretty much doing blues. I
Okay.
never I played in a couple little bands here and there through my time in LA, but once I started my own band, it was all about blues and blues rock, and it's been that ever since. So
Nice.
uh, a lot of these guys in the rock scene who have become really good friends of mine, and I cherish the friendships I have with a lot of these guys that were rockers, but I didn't really get to know them until really I started doing the count band, because I kind of ran around in the blues circuit and the blues scene. So a lot of these
Right.
guys, I knew them or and knew casually. I didn't really get to know on a higher level, so to speak, until I started kind of getting more into the rock scene, because it was just, you're just running in through different paths.
Sure. Is there much of I mean, then, like I know LA is completely different now. Um, was there much of a scene back there to do for blues back then, or?
Yeah, oh, man, especially in the 90s, yeah, there were several really cool blues clubs back then. The place where I really kind of cut my teeth and kind of got to be known, so to speak, was a place called the Classroom in
Okay.
Northridge. And then there was Cozy's, which was kind of designed a little bit after, I think his name was Steve Cozy. Um,
Okay.
it was kind of designed after Antone's in Austin. So that was a big one. They had a great jam every Monday night.
Hmm.
There was a place called Smokin' Johnny's. You had Harvell's in Santa Monica, and then there were some places down in the South Bay and stuff too. So there was a lot back
Wow.
in the
Okay.
'90s. There was actually a really strong blues rock scene in LA. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And then when how I started coming to Vegas was there was a place here called the Sand Dollar, which is still there, but back in the day it was straight up blues club, biker club, and I started playing
Okay.
there in about '99, 2000. Um, yeah, so and Vegas had a pretty cool popping little scene then too. Yeah,
So what made you make the leap to Vegas altogether at that point?
I think at that time I had been signed now to Shrapnel with Mike Varney. Blues Bureau
Okay.
International is what it was, and I just found myself really kind of spending more time here.
Mm.
And when you start kind of looking at your phone, it's like all these 702 numbers, and I was just like, my son was a little bit older now, and uh, yeah, I just kind of liked it. It just I like the 24-hour lifestyle. There was a really cool music scene here, a lot of cool people, and it was thriving, and it was starting to kind of, well, as you know, like, I mean, you're in Nashville now. I mean, we're
Yeah.
having that same kind of expansion where there's so many people moving here. But back then, 2010-ish or whatever, it was still kind of fresh, so to
Right.
speak. Not everybody was here yet, and yeah, I just decided it's cheaper. Um, there's
I
more
hear
to
it's a
do.
lot cheaper in Vegas than it is here in Nashville.
Yeah, maybe I couldn't speak on that because everything's going up here too.
Yeah, I
But
can
it's
imagine.
probably still a little bit cheaper. It's still cheaper than LA. I mean, we know there's a
Mhm.
mass exodus getting out of there, but
Yeah,
um, yeah, I mean, Vegas has a lot to offer. It's kind of gotten a little bit more corporate lately, which is
sure.
a little sad, but it's still Vegas. Still Vegas, and there's a lot of great people out here, and more people moving out here all the time, and we're starting to kind of get back into having stuff to do all the time.
Yeah, it's funny because people they'll ask me, especially people back in Philly, they're like, "Would you ever move back to Philly?" I said, "Look, I'm here in Nashville. I love it here." I said, "The only other place I'm moving is Vegas.
Yeah,
That's my next stop if I go anywhere else is Vegas."
yeah. There's a lot of great people here. Eddie's out here all the time. Eddie and I have become really good buddies. Um, Sebastian Bach's out here. I see
Hmm.
Sebastian all the time. Phil Susan's out here. Stephen Piercy's out here now. So a lot of these guys from the '80s and '90s rockers. A lot of them have moved out here. Phil Lewis.
Yeah,
A couple. I see Eric Singer from time to time, and of course all the Slash guys are out here. Frankie and
right.
Fitz, who, like I said,
Gave you the
got me this
jacket.
wonderful jacket. Brett Fitz from Slash's band and so many other things. He's an incredible musician, but we've become good buddies, and we're both Evil Knievel fans. And I've gotten him a couple little things, and for my birthday, he got me this jacket, which I'm just
That's
totally blown
awesome.
away by. I'm just like, this is like the coolest thing ever. So, but yeah, so we have so many great people here, and the scene is really cool, and um, we're all pretty tight. We've all become really cool friends, and I appreciate that.
That's what it seems like. I mean, I see the pictures between pictures you put up and everybody else that you mentioned. When you see the pictures like on social media and all, and it seems like it's become like a very close knit community.
It is. It is, and everybody's cool, and everybody is supportive of each other, and everybody wants everybody to do well. So there's not
Hmm.
really like that kind of. There's not really any of that kind of competition and stuff. I think we're all in the same gang, so to
Yeah,
speak, and we're all trying to just be artists and musicians and make a living and enjoy ourselves. And I think we're all kind of on the same page out here, and we're all supportive of each other and appreciate each other's talents.
yeah, that's the thing too. Like at this stage of the game for everybody, it's like yeah, we're not in competition. We're all kind of yeah, we all have our own projects that we're doing
Yeah,
and bands, but as a big picture, we're all in this together, working as a family towards the same goal.
absolutely. Absolutely, and that kind of comes across too. I mean, I love hanging out with all these guys, and then of course, we have a studio here at Counts, and I
Hmm.
have a rehearsal room and a live room and stuff. So a lot of these guys will come here and rehearse. Like Bruce Kulick's
Right.
band before they go on the cruise, they come here and practice. Phil Susan just hit me up. Last in Line actually recorded their new album. Some of it they recorded here, but
Okay.
they'll come in here and rehearse. They're doing their album release party at the Hard Rock here April 1st, and so they're going to come in and rehearse. So like you know, we have these kind of guys coming through here, which is also really cool. Going back to being like we were talking about earlier, when they were doing the new Last in Line album,
Yeah.
they're doing a drum. So right out here, right outside my little window here is the live room, and they're in there working up these songs, and it's Vivian Campbell, and
Hmm.
it's Vinny and
Vinny. Yeah.
Phil and Andrew, and I'm just kind of like I would just kind of look in there, and I'm going, this is how they did it with Ronnie James Dio. I mean,
Yeah.
they would just sit there and they're playing the guitar, and you're watching the process of them work these songs up and this material up, and you're going, go back. It's like my 15-year-old self is like going freaking insane inside. I'm going like, these are the Dio guys, man. And I saw
Right.
Dio when I was a kid, and so a lot of that stuff, it really just kind of it's a mind twist sometimes because you're just going,
Hmm.
how did I end up in this life? How did I end up in this universe? And
Right.
but man, again, it's a thrill. It really is.
That's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how did you and Danny actually end up hooking up? Because I think to myself, but then I saw as I was doing research that I mean, you guys actually hooked up kind of before the show started.
We did, yeah.
Okay.
So, as I was telling you before, that this place here called the Sand Dollar, which is a blues club, but
Hmm.
back in the day when things were really popping, I didn't even start till 2:30 in the morning. I mean, I started my set was from there was this great blues band out here, and I call them like the house blues band of Las Vegas called Scott Reiner and the Moanin' Black Snakes, and they play everything from you know they got a B3 player, but they play everything across the board,
Okay.
blues stuff. And they would play from 10 to 2, and then I would come in and play from 2:30 to 5:30 in the morning. And that's how I kind of cut my teeth in Vegas and built my audience in Vegas,
Oh
was
shit.
at that time in those hours, because you know other guys from bands would be getting off, other
Hmm.
people bartenders and all that kind of stuff be getting off, and they'd all go up to the Sand Dollar, and I would play. And that's kind of how I met a lot of these people and kind of cut my teeth there. And but yeah, it was popping back then, 2:30 to 5:30 in the morning. And I was call it the stripper and tweaker set, because that was a lot of the audience. But no, a lot of great people. But um, yeah, yeah, I
That's
forgot what the
funny.
question was, but yeah, I'm like
Oh,
trying to get it in my head.
how did you and Danny hook
Oh,
up?
Danny, right? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so he would come. This is before I knew him, but he would be one of the guys that would kind of come and hang out with some of his biker buddies back in the day. When they were making the rounds out partying, they'd stop in the Sand Dollar late at night, see Stoney Curtis, and we never really met. Maybe we met casually for a minute, um,
Right.
but I never really knew him. But he knew me. And then when kind of things kind of went to hell out here in 2008 or nine, right when everything kind of crashed,
Okay.
we took it really hard out here. But a lot of these places closed, and including the Sand Dollar kind of went down for a little while as well.
Oh,
But Danny had just started up. At the time, it was called Feel Goods. Uh, Counts Vamped was
okay.
originally called Feel Goods when he was. Vince didn't really have a money stake in the place, but they used his likeness, so to speak, to kind of
Okay.
push it
Okay.
back then. But uh, and then couple of buddies of mine were doing it, would go up there and jam with John Zito, who have known for a long time, who's the other guitar player in Count Band. But he had a jam night, and I would just kind of go up there and hang out and jam with those guys. And every once in a while, Danny would get up and play with us, sing with us,
Hmm.
because he grew up as a singer when his father was a singer. And
Okay.
uh, and we would play some Doors songs and different stuff. And then one night we were just out on the patio. Have you ever been to Vamp? You ever been out here to
I
Vamp?
I have I have never been to Vegas.
Okay, well, we welcome you with open arms. Come anytime, and we'll show you the time of your life. Uh, but Vamped is they have a patio outside there, right outside there, and you could kind of hang out there and talk. And we were just out there talking, and we just decided, hey, why don't we practice a little bit? We'll get together, have a couple rehearsals, and maybe learn some other songs, and we'll open up for some bands at Vamp from time to time. And that's really kind of how it started. And it
Wow.
it started organically. The outside of the drummer, it's always been the same guys. And we just kind of started doing these gigs, and then that's kind of how we got to know it. So it was before the TV show.
Wow.
He was doing the Pawn Stars. He would be
Right.
making appearances on Pawn Stars. But then he actually came to the guys in the band and goes, hey, these people at History Channel want me to do a pilot for my own show, and it might be kind of cool. So, and lo and behold, it happened, and
All
this is
right.
where we are. So, after about maybe a year or two with that, I had been working with Mike Varney. We were probably 4 or 5 albums deep into Stoney Curtis band stuff, and Mike lives out here, and Mike is also one of my dearest friends. And he goes, "What do you think? You think we can write some songs for this with Danny and stuff, and he'd be into it, and we can do some original stuff?" I'm like, "I would love to do that, man. That's really what I want to do."
Right.
And it just kind of took off from there. Mike and I just started writing songs, and yeah, it just kind of organically grew into this thing where then we're traveling all across North America. I mean, we've been everywhere from in a mountain in Nova Scotia all the way down to wherever. I mean, we've been all over North America, and it's a thrill, man. We still dig each other. We still love making music together and traveling together and being buddies. And I still, these are the guys I hang out with. So yeah, that's kind of how it went down.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of scary too because I can't believe it's been what like 6 7 years since the last album.
It has been 2017, I think. Soul Transfusion came out. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's been. I have. I'll tell you this. I have
you're
two
slacking, man.
singles. Right. I have two singles from Count 77 that are on the board that are that we did covers of. One is Vehicle from Ides of
Okay,
March, and of course it's all with the guitar, so they're huge. And then we did a cover of Day After Day, which is also great. And then we have a whole live concert that we filmed also during the pandemic that we never released. 5 cameras, sounds amazing, full show. It's incredible, and I hope sometime some people are going to be able to see it because it's actually really good. And then we're going to start a new album. But right now, I'm in the middle of a new Stoney Curtis Band album, which has been since
okay.
2000. I'm embarrassed to say has been since 2013 that I put out a new original Stoney Curtis Band album. But we are deep into it, and it's going to be super kick ass, and I can't wait to get it out, man.
So, being the fact that it's been that long for both of your musical projects, like I, I- I'm sure you've been writing. Like,
I have it, yeah, and I have a lot of stuff. So I mean, Mike Varney and I we're such a good songwriting team. We just seem to have a connection with each other, to where I'll have some ideas, and he goes, "Oh, I got something perfect for that." Da, 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 and we just start building all this stuff together. So I mean, we're like flying through these songs right now, to where I think
mm,
I'm at about 11 songs right now that are
wow.
done. I mean, we
Okay.
still have stuff to do, um, but we still got a whole sack full left to do. So,
Wow.
um, my goal is to get about 15 tracks for the Stoney Curtis Band album,
Okay.
and then I'll start building them up, right? And then I think more than likely, because we're on a roll, we're just going to roll right into the next Count 77 album.
Okay.
So because it's the same guys doing the stuff. With the Count stuff, we take Danny's lyrics and his ideas and turn them into songs. And then with Stoney Curtis Band stuff, it's just me and Mike. But again, I mean, once we get on a roll, we kind of go for it. And of course, my excuse would be, well, we had other stuff going on, and we did
Mm,
this, and I did I did the Kiss tribute albums that I produced and played on and co-produced
right.
with it, and then I had so that's a whole thing. And then I engineered and co-produced a tribute to Peter Green with a buddy of mine. His name is Rick Berthad, and that
Okay.
album's out there. And that album's out there doing great for him. It's on all the blues charts, and so I have been doing stuff. I just haven't been paying enough attention to my own career and my
Right.
own music. But I'm starting to do that again now, and I'm loving it. And I think people are, if they're into what I do, this is going to be by far the best one yet.
Now, I don't know. For some reason, this was popping in my head. Like,
Mhm.
in the music business today, in this whole world that's going on with streaming and stuff like that, a lot of bands are now going towards the whole route of singles, throwing singles out, whether it's a monthly basis or every however many months or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
But in the world of blues, like for some reason, I'm like saying to myself, I think the whole album still would be better than just delivering singles.
Yeah. Well, I have two thoughts on that. I agree with the putting out a single from time to time,
Hmm.
because I think it keeps people interested a little bit.
Right.
So you're not maybe just blowing it all on 1 minute.
Sure.
So a lot of guys have done that, and I think for myself, I kind of want to do that as well, in the sense of I want to do the whole album, right?
Hmm.
But as I finish up, I want to get a couple of songs done to kind of get them out there as a teaser for the album, and to kind of get people back interested again. Because again, I mean, I haven't gone away, but I've gone away a little bit, in the sense of I haven't put out any new music in a while.
Right.
So I do want to kind of start to kind of flame the fire a little bit, kind of start to get
Mhm.
it out. So I would like to put out a single, maybe with a video, and then maybe a month later, maybe another single with a video, and then eventually just put out the whole album.
Right.
Um, so that, I hear this a lot too, where a lot of guys go, they put out the album, and for that first week, it's great, but then it just kind of goes away because
Yeah.
everybody's attention span is shorter, and they just move on to other stuff. So I think maybe if
Mhm.
you spread out a couple of things, maybe it kind of keeps the fire going for a little bit longer. But with the album, Mike and I were just talking about this the other night. Mike said to me, he goes, all these songs are so cool, and they all fit into the Stony Curtis box, so to speak.
Okay.
But they're all so different, and it's going to take you on a little journey, right?
Hmm.
So Mike was saying that what he's really excited about is sequencing the songs, so that when you
Okay.
start from song one and you go to song however many's on there, 12, 13, right, that it takes you on some kind of little journey. It
Journey.
takes you
Yeah.
on a ride, right? And it's not just all it's not just all 1, 4, 5 blues shuffles. It has
Mhm.
elements of Stevie Ray, but then it has elements of Robin Trower, and has elements
Mhm.
of Black Crows, and has so it has a different, what I mean. So it's just not all
Right.
one thing. So that's what I think was the great thing about an album, with is taking you on a ride, and giving the listener something that's a whole retrospective of
Yeah.
what that is, what that Stony Curtis thing is, right?
Do you being the fact that I mean you've worked very closely with Mike Varney for many years, and
Mhm.
you're there at the studio all the time, and doing stuff for other artists. Have you ever thought about getting involved more behind the scenes with other artists, like artist management, direction, like that whole thing?
Uh, I'm definitely interested in doing some producing and recording. What I've really gotten into lately, which I kind of got into during the pandemic, is just being able to engineer myself,
Mm,
engineer a session, record the drum tracks, do a Pro Tool session, and record bands. What I did with the Rick Berthod, was I engineered everything from
okay.
snout to tail. I mean, I did everything from, I mastered it, I mixed it, I recorded it, I helped co-produce it. I played a little bit here and there on it. And I tell you what, man, I loved it. I love making myself sound good, but I also enjoy, creating and helping other people sound great too.
Right.
So I mean, I think I have a good ear for producing. I know what sounds good, if getting tones and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I really want to get into that more, and especially as I get older. I mean, I want to have something else to do that's still musical and creative. And I
Hmm.
think doing producing and engineering and all that kind of stuff kind of feeds that a little bit. And so yeah, I definitely want to do a lot more of that. I'm doing my own album. I'm engineering it so far. As of right now, I'm engineering it myself. As we
Right.
move on, I'll bring other guys in. But um, yeah, I love that. I love that aspect of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Now, how about is there a documentary about you being done?
there is. Very cool. Yeah, there's a woman out here. Her name is Michelle Adams, and she's been a fan of mine for a long time. And she's wanted to do this, and I was just kind of like, really, about me? I really not that interesting. But I guess maybe we start peeling back anything else. I guess there are some interesting aspects to it. So she's been working on it, and she's got a lot of time invested in it,
Wow.
um, and it's going to be really good. She's filmed. She's got a lot of people in it. She's filmed it. She came to Chicago and followed us around while we were doing some shows out there, and got to meet a lot of my friends from back in the day and recorded all that. She's been doing interviews out here in Vegas, and she has pictures of me from when I was 6 months old to to now. And um, but it's going to be called "For the Love of Blues and Rock and Roll," which is one of my songs off of one of my albums called Blues and Rock and Roll. So she's working
That's
hard
cool.
on it. She's got some great investors in it, and she's got film festivals lined up to see it, and man, I'm excited about it. But yeah, so when she was telling me, we had a meeting in a lawyer's office and all that, and I go, it's just weird to kind of think of myself in that way or talk about myself in that way. So I'm
Right.
just kind of going. So I just kind of when I was sitting there, I go, you know what? I'm in. Let's do it like this. Do whatever, do however your vision is. Let's follow your vision of however you want to do it. But I'm going to work on a new album, so you could kind of film on me working on this new album, and then
Mm.
maybe we kind of cross pollinate here and help each other out to where when the album's done, hopefully the movie's kind of done, and
Right.
they could kind of help promote each other, because I was always kind of thinking like, well, what's the tie up? How are we going
Hmm.
to end this movie?
Yeah.
And so hopefully we're going to end it with a great new Stoney Curtis band album and a really cool kind of hour long documentary of kind of gives you the the roller coaster ride of Stoney Curtis, I guess. We'll see.
That's cool.
But
Well,
she's way into it. Yeah, she's way into it. I think it's going to be really great.
I think too, and I don't think you get enough credit. There's not a lot of, we've talked about Randy Rhoads and stuff like that, and there's the Eddie Van Halens and the guitar gods of the '80s, and your Zach Wilds and Dimebags of the '90s, but like kind of like in the 2000s, that guitar hero has been lost, and I think people like yourself that are out there that are truly these fucking amazing guitarists are not getting their just due and the credit and the recognition that's deserved for what you guys are doing on guitar.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, and I love playing the guitar, so that's going to be my fight forever. I mean, I don't really do it for the accolades. I do it because I freaking love it, and I love making music, and I love jamming with my buddies, so to speak,
Hmm.
and I just like the energy of it. So I go out there and just try to do the best I can every time, and enjoy the ride, and whatever comes of it comes of it. I just
Right.
um, I like that people think of me like that sometimes. So that's
Sure.
really cool, and I'm gonna keep going out there and doing it, and along this journey, I've got to you know I've got to meet some cool people and do some cool things. So I guess I always say sometimes life's about perspective, right? So I go I went to go see Leonard Skinner recently, and I went with Eddie Trunk and a couple other buddies, and but you know this guy walked us in, took
Hmm.
us upstairs to a private suite that's like dead center looking right at the show, and afterwards I got to hang out with Damon Johnson and a couple of these
Hmm.
guys, and the
Great guy.
really great guy, and
Yeah.
um, got to kind of hang out with them, and then this guy said, he goes, man, you're so great, and I don't understand this, and I don't understand that, why you're not bigger, and you're this and this, and I go, well, I mean, it's all perspective, really, because I mean, if you think about it, you just walked me in here, right?
Right.
You took me up to a private suite. I got to watch Leonard Skinner, and I got to hang out with the guys in the band afterwards. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's all perspective of how you want to look at it. I mean, I get to do a lot of things that like I said, as my 15-year-old self would be going crazy, and that a lot of people wish they got to do, and I get to do it. So you know, just I guess it just all depends on how you look at it.
Absolutely. So, being the fact that you are involved in Danny, are you a big car guy as well, or
I have my Mustang. I don't know if you ever saw my Mustang that
which
we
was on the
sold.
show? Yeah.
Yeah, I was on a show. Yeah, so I do love cars, and I've always been a car fan. I mean, I'm a kid from the '70s, kind of speak. So Evil Knievel and all that stuff. So I love cars. I have my motorcycle that I have, and I have my car, and I do, and yeah, I like old cars. I'm a big '70s cars guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm not as crazy about him as Danny. It's like my life does not revolve around it. I mean, as Danny is with cars, I'm probably
You
better
are
with
with guitars.
guitars. Right, exactly. But it's but I do appreciate it. And again, I'm spoiled around here because I get to see all these projects that they do and Danny's collection, and then some of these other cars that come through here. And we had Alice Cooper here and his car, and I mean, some of the stuff is just Ryan Evans and Horny Mike and Ghetto Bob and all these guys. I mean, they really are. They are rock stars in their field. So
Absolutely.
I'm lucky to kind of get to take in all that around here too. And he's got a really cool car museum here too. So again, you got to come to Vegas and take some of this in, man.
Dude, it's funny because me and my fiance, we were out last night at dinner, and that was the whole like thing of our conversation throughout the night over cocktails and dinner and everything was we want to do a road trip to Vegas, and
Hmm.
we have like a eBay online reselling business, and we like YouTube everything. So we're like, imagine like driving to Vegas and stopping in all these places and going picking everywhere and getting stuff and filming everything. And then in Vegas, which would probably be dangerous for us, and who knows what would happen there. And yeah, the ride back to Nashville would be an interesting thing. So yeah, so
Absolutely.
maybe this summer could be knocking on your door.
Like I said, you're always welcome here. We always welcome everybody with open arms in Las Vegas. And man, again, there's so much here. There's so much here to do, and it's so fun. Uh, if you find the right things to do, it's endless good
Abs-
time of what you can have. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So who's got more? Does Danny have more cars, or do you have more guitars?
Danny's got more cars.
Really?
Danny's got more cars. I would probably say I have. I sold a couple and then I always just replace them with something else. So it's I don't know why I even bother, but I probably have maybe 30 guitars, maybe 30 guitars, and they're all nice guitars. They're all, for the most part, they're either Fenders or Gibsons. I usually stick with the, you know, keep it simple. Uh, Stratocasters. I have a few Les Pauls, and I've got like a 335, and I have a Firebird, and I have my
Nice.
Ibanez Iceman, and
Hmm.
a couple Explorers, and yeah, I love them. I mean, I do love them, and I'm always looking for the next best one. But yeah,
What's your opinion on like like me being the kid of the '70s? You had your Gibsons, your Fenders, your Ibanez's, and
mm,
stuff like that, and the BC Riches and the Kramers of the '80s. But it's like now there's like all these custom
mm.
guitar, like all these guys are making these amazing freaking custom guitars. Do you like dive into that world at all, or are you still just like the old head and just go with the those old classics?
Yeah. For the most part, I just stick with the classics, Gibson and Fender. But I do have I have a Shabbat, which is they call it a Shabbat Lynx, which is it's basically a Stratocaster.
Okay.
A guy named Avi Shabbat out of West Hills, California, made it,
Okay.
and it is incredible. The craftsmanship on it, the everything from the wood to the pickups, the craftsmanship, the way it's built. I mean, it is a phenomenal guitar, and I really dig that. Um, but for the most part, at the end of the day, it's like a Harley Davidson. It's
Yeah.
always going to be a Harley Davidson. It's always going to be a Gibson Les Paul. You don't have to explain it to anybody. A Fender
Right.
Stratocaster is a Fender Stratocaster. They need no explanation or anything. It just is what it is. Um, when you think about it, all these boutique shops are just trying to make what's already done, right? They're trying to
Yeah.
make it's a Stratocaster, it's a Les Paul. I mean, those are Telecaster. I mean, those are basically the industry standards, right? So any of these other companies that are trying to do anything else are just trying to make another version of what we already have, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
Cool. Cool.
yeah,
Sony, this has been a lot of fun, man. Thanks for
yeah,
doing it.
man.
Thanks for hanging
I
out.
really appreciate it, man. It's been a long time coming, and I'm glad I
Absolutely.
got to got to meet you a little bit here and hang out and talk and
For
talk
sure.
about myself. I mean,
So what's the next thing you got coming up show wise?
Yeah, the Count Band is going to do. Man, we're doing some corporate gigs right down the street in March. That we're doing like 3 nights in a row corporate, and those
Okay.
are always fun because they really pay well and it's no stress. It's easy and you just kind of show up and play. But Stoney Curtis Band has a couple gigs out in uh, Lake Havasu coming up March 10th and 11th out there.
Okay.
Um, the Count Band is doing the old Laughlin River run. I don't know if they do Laughlin anymore, but in right across the river in Bullhead, Arizona, the Count Band is playing out there, doing a big show that we opened up for Quiet Riot out there last year. It was
Okay.
such a great time. Probably had to be, I don't know, 8,000 people out there.
Oh wow.
And then but this year we're headlining it. So we're on Friday
Nice.
night, and then I think Slaughter is on Saturday night.
Okay.
So Count Band is doing that April 28th. We're Count Band's at M3 again this
M3.
year. We're kicking it off again on Saturday, May 6th. That's a big night. I mean, I think Styx is the headliner that night, which I will be hanging out there all night. The
That's
lineup
awesome.
at M3 that night is really, really good. Hopefully, Count Band will go back to Rocklahoma. Stoney Curtis Band will be out in the Midwest again in the summertime doing some stuff. And
Cool.
right now, I mean, my goal is to finish this Stoney Curtis album. I think it's going to kick ass, and I can't wait for people to hear it. And then once that's out, I'm going to do the full court press, man. I'm going to try and get out
Nice.
there and do some shows. And I would like to get on some of these, open up for some of these like-minded
Mm-hmm.
guitar guys, and that's the goal right now. And the Count Band will be out there as well. We'll be all over North America again this year. And
Cool. Cool.
Danny's about to do a new pilot because they're going to move. They're off the History Channel now. That they'll still play reruns there, but the new show, I think, fingers crossed, is probably going to move over to Discovery Channel, if I can say that.
Okay.
They're going to shoot a pilot for it coming up, and so hopefully you'll have some new version of Count's Customs out there coming out this year sometime soon. And a new Stoney Curtis album, new Count album, and we'll see
Nice.
where the wind blows, man.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. Actually, there's a band back in Philly that I manage. They're playing the M3 pre-party on Friday night.
Oh, okay, yeah. His name is escaping me right now, but I was invited to that party, and I think I'm going to try and come to that.
Yeah, check them. They're called actually Rat Rod, so falls right
Rat
in the
Rod.
wheelhouse of
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that the guy, and I just saw him the other day at a well, I went and saw Jared James Nichols, who's a
Okay.
phenomenal guitar player in his own right. I just saw him, and he reminded me. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's the one, and I'm gonna try and drag the guys down there, but I'll definitely be there.
Nice. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, hey,
Hey,
everybody,
man.
where should everybody go? Where's the best place to go? StoneyCurtisBand.com or
StoneyCurtisBand.com. I'm on Instagram, Stoney Curtis 77, Twitter, Stoney Curtis 77, Facebook, Stoney Curtis Band or Stoney Curtis. I don't do TikTok or any of that stuff.
Come on, man.
No,
No TikTok?
no, I'm not going to do that. But the Instagram, the Twitter, the Facebook, I'm there, and I'm easily accessible. Send me a message, say hello anytime, and
Awesome.
yeah, I'll be around.
Cool. Dude, I appreciate you doing this. Tell Danny I was asking for him. I haven't talked to him in a long time.
Yeah, he was just in Detroit, and I think he goes to Chicago next week, and then again, then we have some shows coming up. So he's out there hustling, and he works his ass off between the business here and the tattoo shop and the rock club and the band,
Sure.
and he's I don't know
Always
where he
going.
gets it. I don't know where he gets the energy, but he does it. So,
It's a
but
beautiful
I
thing.
will say I will tell him you said hello. I'll see him. Actually, I might see him tonight. So we'll see.
Cool. All right,
Thank
man.
you again,
Well,
man. Love it. Man.
absolutely, man. Take care, man.
Thanks, everybody.